All right, video 3, in-depth settings. So we'll go ahead and go in-depth into the settings. So essentially, to get into the settings menu, as I showed in the previous video, there's multiple ways. You can press on the settings button here. You can hold on the home screen and go to the settings here. You can open up your app drawer and go to the settings, or you can slide down on the status bar and go to your settings that way. Inside the settings, we briefly went over Wi-Fi, but essentially in the Wi-Fi, you'll see all your different networks. If you want to turn on and off Wi-Fi, you just simply slide the little bar over. You just touch it and it'll turn on and off. It's the toggle switch. In the menu, it mentioned menu settings. If you press on that, it'll give you a couple more options for saved networks, and you can go to advanced and you can look at different things on the network. You can see your IP address, the MAC address, things of those nature. You know, if you want the Wi-Fi to go to sleep, things like that, you can change a lot of those features. And we won't go in depth in this because this is advanced settings, but just give you an idea of what you can do with the device. Moving on, we'll go to display and lights. Under the display and lights, here's another option for your brightness level where you can just get the little pop-up on your screen to slide it. Again, if you slide down the status bar, you can change it there. And also again, on the device, you can use the toggle switch to toggle up and down the brightness on it. There's another option in here called adaptive brightness. What that is that in the event that you have low lighting, you can turn that on and it'll adjust the screen based on the brightness in the room. Again, I don't know if that's necessary just because you have the toggle switch to up the brightness or down the brightness very quickly. Another option, which is part of Motorola's Nexus 6, is the Ambient Display. What that does is if your screen's off, the Ambient Display will come on if there's a notification. Currently, right now, we don't have any design for that with the chest noter application. That may be something we add in the future. But for now, you can just leave that off. Another option in here is your sleep. If you press on the sleep, you can choose different times that it'll set the screen to sleep. You have different intervals and minutes here. One thing we do recommend is when you're doing updates that you choose 30 minutes to set it to 30 minutes while it's doing the update, just so the screen doesn't fall asleep during the update. Another thing to mention here is that when you're in the chest noter application and in tournament mode, it will automatically leave the screen on all the time while you're in tournament only. So that's something that you don't have to mess with the different minutes and sleep here for it. Moving on, there's a wake on plug. So what that means is that when you plug in a power connector in the bottom of the device into the USB port, it'll just wake up the screen. So you can turn that on and off just by toggling it and pressing on the button. It'll on and off it. Another option in here is your font size. If you press on the font size, you can scale the font for the whole operating system so everything increases. So that's helpful for people like me that have poor eyesight and have to wear glasses. So another option in here is your battery light. What this does is when you plug in a power connector again into the bottom, when it's charging, up here at the very top of the screen, up here above what would be traditionally the head, like where you would listen to phone calls, but it doesn't work because we've disabled audio. But above here, there's a little light that'll turn on when you charge, and basically you can change the color and the pitch of those colors based on what you're doing when you plug it in. So when your battery gets low, it turns red. When you're charging, it'll go blue. And then when you're fully charged, it'll go green. So some things you can mess with. And again, if you don't want to see those things, you can just toggle off the battery light. It's really up to you. Again, all these settings in here will affect the battery life. So another thing in here is the notification light, and what this does is, again, it'll light the light up here if you get a notification. Currently right now there is no notifications on this device, so that's kind of the breakdown on that. So moving along, the next thing we'll talk about is lock screen. On the lock screen in here, this gives you the ability to set up a lock code on the device. So if you want, you can go to pattern. Here it's letting you know that when you turn it on, that when the device boots, it'll require that pattern. So you can do different options here, a 3x3, a 4x4, and 5x5, and so forth. We'll go ahead and do a 6x6 just so you can kind of see. So you can just set up a really easy code and then confirm it. Here's it's letting you know that when the device is locked, you want any notifications to show up. Again, since there's no notifications designed currently, you can just leave that to defaults and then just hit done. Here on the lock screen, it gives you a couple options to make the pattern visible, show errors, and then like remove the dots so they don't even show up on the screen. I usually recommend just to turn off the make pattern visible. That way no one can see what you're drawing on the screen if you're doing a pattern. So example, when I come in here and unlock the device, whenever I move, no one can see my pattern except when I put in the wrong pattern. So that's kind of the pattern there. Some other options in the lock screen is you can also change to pin. So again, it's asking you when it boots up to do the pin check. But in here you can do a simple pin, do some number digits and stuff like that. There's also an option for, hold on here, whoops. There's also an option for passwords, so if you want, you can use your keyboard to type in a password and stuff like that. So those are some of those basic options. For now, we'll just turn it off while we're doing this demo. So another thing on the lock screen too is it gives you the ability to show owner information. So if you wanted to type something like, lost call, or, if found, maybe that would probably be better. If found, whoops, found call. And you can go ahead and, put that in there. So when you lock the screen and it comes up, oh, because there is no lock, hold on, let's turn on swipe at least. So in here on the screen, if found, call, and then it has the number. And then, if you had a passcode, that's where it would prompt you for the passcode. So those are kind of the things with the lock screen. The other option in here is battery. In the battery, it automatically has like a battery mode that kicks in, and it lets you know like how many hours are left on the device based on your usage and how long it thinks it's going to last. As you charge and use it more often, you'll get it'll be better managed. You can change like the mode. If you want like a power save mode, you can turn that on, and basically what this does is it's very blocky. As you can see, it's things don't move very smooth as before. So it's a little blockier and stuff, but it helps with battery life. So if you're in the middle of a tournament and your battery's running low, that might be a good option for you, is to turn on the power save mode. Another option in here is you can do battery saver threshold. So you can have that battery mode turn on if you're at 15% or 5%, or if you choose never, you can do that as well. So just so we don't run over too much time, I'll go ahead and leave these other 3 settings for our next video. But for now, that's basically wireless and networks, and the wireless and networks and the device settings. So thank you.